Do you relate well to being spiritual and not religious? Are you looking to transform your life to have greater purpose and experience more joy and abundance? If you are, you've come to the right place. Welcome. I'm Neil Pinkman, the spiritual director for the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. Over the past 2 decades, our open and affirming, diverse community has helped countless people in the same way. Enjoy watching. If you like what you see, check us out at cslnj.org.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey. My name is Reverend Evelyn, and I'm going to be your host for the day. And I would like to welcome anyone who's here for the first time and anyone, all the rest of us who've been here all along. And good morning to everyone. We have members all over the place, and especially to Reverend Don Lee's cat, who has made an appearance already. So thank you for being here. So we at the Center for Spiritual Living, we are an open and affirming science of mind community where the vibration of love lifts you, the wisdom of the ages inspires you, and the science of mind teaching empowers you. We believe that heaven and hell are states of consciousness that you experience in this lifetime, that we all experience in this lifetime, that you are the architect of your life, and that it is never too late to know true happiness. So I am going to invite our beautiful musician this morning. I was going to say Reverend Lynette to the music to do the next song, and then we will hear an opening prayer from our practitioner of the day, Patricia.
I am a light in this world.
I step into action to create an inclusive world. In mind, there is no time, no space, no place. There is only wholeness, oneness, and eternity. I have a fundamental belief in the oneness of all, and I live by the principles of science of mind. I believe in the unity and equality of all people, which enables me to approach others with compassion, empathy, and respect. And so it is. And so please take a moment and take that in. That is a beautiful message that this world needs right in this moment. So next we're going to hear from Patricia again. She will have a reading from the Science of Mind textbook.
Yes. So the reading from the Science of Mind textbook is from page 562. And it's entitled, My Ideal Merges into the Real. We now let go of everything and enter into the contemplation of peace and good and truth and beauty. We are conscious that God is all there is. There is nothing else. We are certain that the spirit of reality is our spirit, flows into our spirit and through our spirit. And we are conscious that love does guide and direct, lead, maintain, and sustain. We know that each one of us is a center of this divine life in this perfect peace, this complete happiness, and this absolute wholeness. And we know that this perfection, which is the center of our very being, is projected into every atom of our being. We know that the law of this being is perfect and there is no obstruction to its operation. We know that the principle within us guides us not only into the way of truth, but in the way and the performance of that knowledge. Whatever is for our benefit is already provided. It is all one thing. It is all one present, operating through one fundamental law. Therefore, everything necessary to our well-being, whether we think of it as spiritual, mental, or physical, everything necessary to remove any belief in obstruction in the inflow and outpush of that spirit is brought into our experience. All good, all substance, all supply, all activity, all opportunity for self-expression is ours now. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay, so now it is time to introduce our speaker. This morning, we will be hearing from our beloved Reverend Joel.
Hey, everybody. Change this. All right. So here we are in the dog days of summer, as they call them, the month of August. Traditionally, that's always in church world, that's the smallest month. Everybody's on vacation. And I just thought today, since I'm giving the talk, I wanted to do something that was just fun, inspiring, and something that would bring me a lot of joy, which I know will hopefully spark the joy in you. And I hope I'm going to be talking about a number of books and ideas. And I hope as I talk about these ideas that sparked me, that they will spark you, because I'm going to give you an opportunity near the end to add your 2 cents as well. So keep that in mind as we go through it. The theme of today's talk is one idea can change your life. One idea can change the course of everything. how many of you have had that experience where you're going along and you read something or you hear something or someone says something to you and it's just like, whoa, it goes all the way in and it just changes things. It literally, you take a left turn immediately at that moment. I remember years ago, I mean, anything could do it, by the way, poetry, songs. When I was trying to decide where to live, some of you have heard that story years ago. I had job opportunities. I was living in San Francisco and I had job opportunities in San Francisco, in LA, and in New York. And I just really didn't know which one to pick. And I'm driving down the road one day and I look and there's a billboard that just went up and it said, "You'll have more fun in New York City." And I was like, whoa, okay, I'm taking that as a sign. So anything can really be that thing, that one idea that sparks you. But for me, the thing that traditionally has always done that, music has, and books. And books, really have been my career. My ministry is a ministry of the word, and it's writing, publishing, reading, and expressing the things that come from books. And I'm sure you're similar in the sense that I can read a whole book and I can be inspired by the whole book. But it's often just one or two ideas from that book that I take with me as I go along. I can be inspired as I read it, but then years later, that one idea from that book is the thing that pops up and helps me in the moment. And I tend to also, I have those books that enrich me with those ideas over and over and over, and have just really stayed with me. They're like my best friends in some way. They've just stayed with me over the years. So I picked a few books. I had originally like 50 books that I was going to mention. And I'm still happy to do that if you all want to hang on the call with me. But I think Neil wanted this to be a brief talk. So I narrowed it down. And I'm just going to give you a quick one idea from each book that sparked me. And again, I'd love for you, as soon as I get almost to the end, I'd love for you to say if any of those books sparked you, or another book that sparked you in the one idea that you carried with it. So, and I'm going to do this fancy. First, Think and Grow Rich. I've talked about this a lot, obviously, over the years, but I think the thing that really, the one idea that I took away from this book the most is that I first read this when I had a lot of financial problems. And what I understood from reading this book is the answer to solving my money problems was not more money. And that was revolutionary for me, because I just thought, I just need more money to solve it and then I'm done. But that's not what this book is about. And I often will say that this book is brilliantly titled because everybody looks at this word rich, but what this book is really about is growing. You have to, as you grow, your experience grows in all areas, including financially. So it's really brilliantly done. And I love this book for that reason. And a lot of people pick up this book thinking it's going to be about money. And where do I put my money, and where's the safest place, and should I invest in 401ks or whatever? He doesn't talk about money at all like that in this book. The chapters in this book are chapters like dreams, decisions, imagination, etc. And so that's the idea that I got from this book, is that it's really about growing into your larger self. And as you do that, everything else around you grows. The next book is the similarly titled The Science of Getting Rich, another book I read when I was broke and heavily in debt. And I don't know if you can see, but I have, here's the thing, I have so many Post-it notes, and every page is there we go, underlined, and everything. This little slim book, which was originally published in 1910, has had a huge impact on my life and obviously the life of millions of other people. I would say that the one idea that most sparked me from this book and really changed the way that I like to think about my life is in this edition, if you have it, is on page 79. And it's very heavily marked and underlined, and I even have one of my special stars next to it. That's how important this idea was. And he says this: do not wait for a change of environment before you act. Get a change of environment by action. And that simple little sentence just shifted the way that I think about the world, because before I read these books and found this science of mind, philosophy, etc., I was one of those people that wanted the world to change around me, but I didn't want to change, and I didn't want to do anything to make the world around me change. I wanted a better this and more of that and less of this, but I didn't want to actually do anything to make any of those things happen. But what he's saying is, if you want anything in your environment to change, the first thing you have to do is take action. And I have boiled that down over the years to the phrase, energy follows action. It's easy to say, and I've heard this a million times as a teacher, and when I work with people as a pastor, where they'll say, I'm waiting for the energy to be there. I'm waiting for that, I'm waiting to feel it. But what this says is it's the opposite. You take action, and that creates the feeling, and it sparks the feeling. It begins the feeling. And that's a galvanizing way to go through life. That changes a lot. All right. I could just talk the whole time about any one of these. I have to watch myself. Next is the 4 agreements. I'm actually not going to talk much about this because we're going to do a whole series on this. Reverend Neil, Reverend Tony, and I are going to spend 5 weeks, actually, I think it is, talking 5 or 6 weeks, talking about this. We're going to go through each of the 4 agreements, as well as the first chapter, which is domestication and the dream of the planet. So I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I will say this: the 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Those are all 4 really great things. They are so hard to live all the time for me. Don't take anything personally and don't make assumptions, especially, I have found to be very challenging concepts. And not just for myself, I've had a lot of employees over the years, and many of the employee issues that have come up because people make assumptions and or they take things personally. Those 2 things often go hand in hand. I remember one employee I had, and she was so upset. And she came in and she said, this person, I know they're thinking this, and I know that this is the way that they think about me and stuff. And it just makes me feel such a way. And as it turns out, that person wasn't thinking any of those things. It was an assumption that this employee had made that had caused her weeks of turmoil because she took it personally. I could relate because I've done that too. And this is an incredibly practical way of going through life cleanly or on a high spiritual vibration. Because, for instance, recently with a death in our family, dealing with family members. Do any of you ever have to deal with family members? Or is it just me? Good, it's not just me. And especially in times of tension, like when there's a death in the family, that brings out the best qualities and sometimes the worst qualities. And family can push your buttons like nobody else can. Anyway, I found myself with a particular family member who I began making assumptions about things, and I took them very personally. And I had to stop myself and say, wait a second, that's an assumption I'm making, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. I'm assuming this. and I don't need to take this personally. And just having that moment of stopping myself changed the way that I dealt with the family, which in turn ended up changing the whole experience of what could have been a very explosive experience, ended up being the opposite of that. Again, we're going to do a whole series on this. I think it starts September 22nd. So please keep that in mind. All right. The Power of Decision. How many of you have read this book, The Power of Decision? I should be asking that each time. If you've not read it, it's worth reading. This is the old cover. That is the current cover. It's worth rereading or reading for the first time if you haven't read it. This book has a lot of great information, but the piece of information that has stuck with me, that one idea that changed my life from this book, begins on, for those of you who have the book, page 79, in a chapter called Decide to Be Happy. And I just want to read these few sentences to you, and listen to this. It's brilliant. Unhappy people think they know why they are unhappy. The number of unhappy people I have listened to and counseled with is legion. Their explanations of the many causes of their unhappiness are usually incorrect. They do not see themselves correctly. Their disturbed emotions distort their reasoning capacity. They want to change the events, situations, conditions, and people in their world. They do not want to change themselves. They want a rearrangement of facts and dodge the concept of a rearrangement of ideas within their own consciousness. If things do not make unhappy people happy, then what does? A change of consciousness is the answer. And very few people want to change their consciousness. They just want to change the things around them. And then the money line of the whole thing is, you cannot make a person happy if his subconscious pattern of happiness requires being unhappy. Simply put, you can't make a person happy when being unhappy is their happiness. And that for me was that one of the ideas that changed my life, because it put the responsibility for their unhappiness off of my shoulders, and it helped me understand that a lot of people don't want to change their unhappiness. They just want to stay in it because that's what's making them happy. Complaining and status quo is keeping them exactly where they want to be, and that's okay for them. And I don't need to argue with them. I don't need to make them see the light. I don't have to do anything specific to change anything other than just be myself. And maybe through my example, I can spark change for people when they're ready, the way that other people did for me. All right. Next is a book called Illusions. How many of you have read Illusions by Richard Bach? A few of you have. This is a great book. This is the original copy I had from 1982, I believe it is. No, 1977. This is a parable, and if you've not read it, it's a treat, and I invite you to read it. The subtitle is The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. And the conceit of the book is that the author, Richard, meets this guy who might be a reluctant Messiah, and hands Richard a book that is called The Messiah's Handbook. And it's filled with little ideas like the best way to avoid responsibility is to say, I've got responsibilities. Or you are never given a wish without also being given the power to make it true. You may have to work for it, however. And here is a test to find whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're alive, it isn't. But the one idea if I'm thinking of the one idea from this book that really has stuck with me all these years, and I recite this constantly, weekly, daily sometimes, to myself and to others, and it is found on page 75 of the hardcover edition. I wish I could make this work better. Right here. And what it says is, argue your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. And I used to be somebody who could argue my limitations. Well, I can't do it because I'm this and I'm this and I'm this, and I can't do it because they, this, and this. And it's so easy to just argue for why you can't do something or why something is the way it is. But the more you argue for the limitations that you think are there, the more they are there, versus trying to go through beyond the limitations that we each have and arguing maybe more for our success than for our limitations. Again, if you've not read the book, please do. It's so great. Any of these books. Next, do you guys like my little slideshow here? Next is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which we do ongoing groups with. And I know a lot of you have read it, some of you haven't. The idea from this book that changed my life, one of many, is that creativity is not about just making art. And this book is about the art of making a creative life. That's a switch. So when you read this book, you don't need to do it because you are an author or a sculptor or a painter. You do it because you want to live a life that is filled with creativity in every area of your life. And this book also reminds me and reminds readers that the creative side of our lives, that wonderful creative side of our lives, is innate in us, which we believe in the Science of Mind teaching, that we were created by a creative process. Therefore, the creative process lives within us. And she says, because this creative process lives within us, we should value it and we should prioritize it. We have to-do lists and we have things that keep us busy and we have the things that we think we should do and all of that. But what's most important are the things that spark us creatively and that we end up using to live consciously and joyfully and creatively and walk through the world with a creative consciousness. And the tool from this book that I think is so valuable, the main tool is called Morning Pages, where every morning you wake up and first thing after you get your coffee is you sit down with a journal and longhand write 3 pages off the top of your head, because we all wake up with stuff, ideas and to-do lists and things, fears of the world and this and that and the news and all that. And we take 3 pages to just dump it all out of us so that it's not in us anymore. We go through the day cleaner and clearer. How brilliant is that? Okay, next, just a couple more. The Lord of the Rings. Has anybody here read The Lord of the Rings? Seen the movies? Few people have. All right. Well, I'm not going to recount what these books are about in detail. The most macro level of this is that there's a ring that needs to be destroyed to save the world. And the smallest, least powerful person of the world, of this kind of world, is the one who steps forward and says, I will do it. His name is Frodo. And Frodo, a hobbit, instead of the giants and the elves and the wizards and all that, this little hobbit says, I will do it. He takes the ring, and the moment he says, I will do it, his adventure begins between that moment and when he gets to the top of this mountain to destroy the ring. That's what this these three of the four books are about. Why I'm bringing it up now is it's about the journey of life. We had Ben Catt a few weeks ago that talked about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. That's what these books are about, the hero's journey. But it begins with a decision to say, I will do it. I will carry the ring. This is mine to bear in this life, and I will do it. And as I said, the second he consciously chose to do it, the adventure begins. People come out of the woodwork and monsters, and people come out to help that are surprising. And it becomes this great adventure that to this day has become one of the greatest adventures and is translated all around the world because we all have that inner journey within us. That thing that we're here to do, the ring that we're here to bring to completion so that it is a completed journey and our adventure is completed. We can go through life, we can drift, we can go through life asleep, we can be on the sidelines of life, but none of us are here to be on the sidelines of our life. We're here to take the ring, each one of us, our own ring, and go forth and really bring the adventure of our life to the forefront. Why is that important? I'm going to bring it here to the Science of Mind, our textbook of our life. And some of you have no doubt heard me talk about my favorite passage these days, changes. My favorite passage these days from this book, which is on page 270. If you have a copy of the Science of Mind in front of you. Oh, incidentally, by the way, this is the 1938 edition of the Science of Mind. The Hobbit was published in 1937. I just think that's interesting. They're published around the same time. Okay, page 270. And I'm going to gender neutralize this. We do not exist for the purpose of making an impression on our environment. We do exist to express ourselves in and through our environment. There is a great difference. We do not exist to leave a lasting impression upon our environment, not at all. It is not necessary that we leave any impression. It is not necessary if we should pass on tonight that anyone should remember that we have ever lived. All that means anything is that while we live. And wherever we go from here, we shall keep on living. It is quite a burden lifted when we realize that we do not have to move the world. It's going to move anyway. This realization, however, does not lessen our duty or our social obligation. It clarifies it. That quote takes the burden of the world off of each of us. And how easy is it in the world that we live in today, specifically right now, especially in our, well, I was going to say in our country, but it's really our world, that we can feel the weight of it on our shoulders. And we have this running theme that goes through, I need to make a lasting impression. I need to change the world. I need to be remembered. I need this, I need that. That's our ego. What he's saying is, we don't need to have that as our focus. The world is not on our shoulders. The world is going to be around the world. What we do need to do is live the life, take the ring that is ours and live it. Take our own adventure and live it fully and consciously. And while we're doing that, as he says, that doesn't mean we don't deal with social obligations. It means it clarifies how we deal with it and the way we deal with it. That's important right now in this day and age as we galvanize ourselves and walk through the world the way it is. I could pick a million of them, and I have one last one, but before I do, I just wanted to know if any of you have any you want to share with the group. Unmute yourself and let us know if any of these books sparked you or another book sparked you. And the one I did briefly, who wants to do that? Yeah, Don Lee.
when I started doing morning papers, it got deeper and I ended up going into channeling. And I'm complete. And it was very powerful.
Thank you. Yes. The morning pages from the Artist's Way really open us up, and they also help make connections with the things that happen in our life. Ray says the power of your subconscious mind. Ray, what ideas off the top of your head sparked you the most from that book?
Well, I think it aligns a lot with Science of Mind. It's just creating your world and actually acknowledging a spirit and thanking it and asking for guidance, to find something, if that's lost or something, that the subconscious mind will connect you to things. They'll show up. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. And it's always a reminder, I forget that.
Awesome. Thank you. Who else?
I've got one.
Yeah.
So it's The Principles of Healing by H.B. Jeffrey. We covered this book in practitioner training. And so I mean, again, like you said, I've got the book all marked up, but there's one section that I thought of that I would share. It's on page 82. The healer is a knower, and he stands firm in his knowing. That is all he has to do. I know in whom I believe. I am not speculating. I am not philosophizing or wondering. I know. We have to pass into that state wherein we know, wherein we feel. For healing is not done in the mind or by the powers of the intellect. It is done in the heart. It is done through the feeling, through the heart's realization of truth. So this is what I feel like fueled my practitioner study and my practitioner practice. So excellent book.
Excellent book. I love it. It's hard to get, by the way. You have
It
to
is hard.
really-
It is hard to get.
You have to want that book to get it. And I happen to have a PDF copy. So if anybody really wants it, let me know and I'll send it to you. Who else? Anybody else want to share? Bill.
Yeah, thanks. Years ago, I think in 2016, I asked you to get this book for me, and you got it. And it's become my personal Bible. And I say that because it answered the question, who am I?
Mm.
And it wasn't like told, well, you're this, that, and that. No, pretty much what Nisargadatta says is to recognize all the thoughts you have of who you think you are and let them go. And as you do, you'll recognize that you've always been who you are.
Mm.
And it's about being. So thank you. This was a great book. I read it. I must have read it 8 times at least since then. And it's
Bill,
always like, aha.
hold the book up again so people can see what it is.
You see that?
I am that.
I am that.
What's the author's name?
What?
The author's name?
It's it's a series of 100 conversations from Nisargadatta. Can you see that at the bottom? And it's all in conversations when people came to him to understand what is truth, pretty much is what all the questions that are asked.
I'm
And
going
it
to
comes
put
in.
a link here into the. Oh,
Yeah.
Shoot.
Thank you.
Paste. All right.
Jill, I've got one,
Yeah.
but this is a book that I got 365 good ideas from. And it's 365 Days of Richer Living, which, is a book we've used in the Science of Mind Every Day classes, and I think we might have been through it twice, to be honest with you. It's been so useful that and that is by Ernest Holmes and Barker. I believe, right? Didn't they put that out together?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that book, and if anybody's interested, we can compile a list of everything everybody's mentioning. And particularly if you have a number of books, email them to us at cslnorthjersey@gmail, the names of them. We'll make this list available somewhere, either on the website or send it out to everybody. So
And hopefully we can keep adding to it. I know we're long, so I'll close us up. I was gonna just mention I have one last one, and I'm using it as Forgiveness by Michelle Wadley. That's a great one. And The 7 Messages of Fear by Dennis Merritt Jones, which, Donnelly, I think you're doing a class on, aren't you? Yep. And the class that the book that Reverend Evelyn mentioned was The Principles of Healing. The author last name is Jeffries. Anyway, let me just finish this up by saying these are some of the other ones that I wanted to pick. Oh my gosh, there's so many good books that have great ideas in it, but I'm going to end with this last one, which is a novel, and it's a novel called Mariette in Ecstasy. Has anybody by any chance read this book? It's a very slender little novel, and it's a novel from 1991, Ron Hansen, and it's a book that's set in 1906, upstate New York, in a convent. The convent is called the Sisters of the Crucifixion. That sounds like a real fun group of gals, right? And what happens is, in this very close-knit convent of sisters that have lived together a long time, comes a brand new postulant, a young 17-year-old girl named Mariette. And when Mariette gets there, she begins having stigmata, which is ecstasy that causes bleeding of the hands and the wrists and in her side. So, and in her feet. So this book, so she comes in and she shakes up the whole group. So the book is really about Mariette and her experience, and also the experience of this close-knit group of nuns experiencing her, because some think she's a sham and others think she's a miracle, etc. However, the reason I'm bringing it up, the idea that changed my life, it's a line in this book that I live with almost every day of my life. And I like to close out this is at the end of the book, and this doesn't give away anything important. The very last line of the book is Mariette leaves, and one of the nuns writes to her and says, "How are you doing?" And Mariette writes back, and she ends her letter, and the book ends with this, where she says, "And Christ still sends me roses. We try to be formed and held and kept by him, but instead he offers us freedom. And now when I try to know his will, his kindness floods me, his great love overwhelms me, and I hear him whisper, 'Surprise me.'" I love that, because that's what life wants from us. We try to be formed and held and kept by life, but instead life keeps saying, "No, you're free, go off and surprise me." So let's take this idea, let's take each of these ideas into a brief treatment, and just if you want to close your eyes, and we can just move to that place of the great freedom, the great creative energy that did create all life, including each one of us. We were created as an idea using the creative process. And it's no wonder that these ideas spark us, because it's in our very spiritual DNA of who we are. curiosity, creativity that we can then bring to service to others and ourselves. And right now, let's just move into that place beyond the place in us that wants form and structure and all of that, to the place where spirit is beckoning us to go beyond our limitations, to move into action, to open ourselves up to the inner workings and outer miracles that surround us all the time. And allow that thought, this idea, to spark us. And even as life says to us, surprise me, let's surprise ourselves today. Let's surprise ourselves with something, an action that brings our awareness ever greater. So right now, I just speak my word for all of us listening, that we allow the ideas and anything that is moving within us, anything that has sparked us, anything that has somehow energized us, to lead us, to guide us like a compass forward, step by step, into our next level of awareness. What else is there? This is the journey. This is the point. And so we say yes to this. We say yes to being awake and aware in the art of making our life creative and beautiful. And therefore, we contribute those very qualities to the world around us. As Ernest Holmes says, it is not for us to shoulder the burdens of the world or to try to do something that our ego says we have to do. Instead, right now, we say yes to our soul and move where it wants us to move. For that is a life well lived. And to that life well lived, we say yes, and we're so grateful. And we release this to love and to law, knowing that even as I say these words, they are true for each one of us right here and right now. And so it is.
At the Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, we believe in empowering individuals to discover their inner strength and their connection to divine life. Through our supportive community, transformative workshops, and uplifting services, we provide a safe space for personal growth and spiritual exploration. Whether you're seeking clarity, healing, or a deeper understanding of life's mysteries, our center offers practical tools and timeless wisdom to help you thrive. Join us in creating a more diverse, compassionate, and kind world. Your world, the way you want to create it.